Hello and welcome back to another episode of the Pain Free for Life podcast. I am your host, Dr. Rob Vanbergen, and today I'm joined by Christy Whitman. Christy has made it her life's work to help spread the message of quantum energy mastery. Christy and the council teach classes and meditations and provide private sessions to help clients feel more aligned with their design of well-being, abundance, and success, and loving and supportive relationships. For over 15 years and before working with the council, Christy was a transformational leader, celebrity coach, and law of attraction expert, as well as a two-time New York Times bestselling author of The Art of Having It All and Taming Your Alpha Bitch. She's also the author of the international bestseller Quantum Success and the Desire Factor. Christy is a regular guest on top podcasts such as Entrepreneur on Fire, or Shift, Your Superpowered Mind, among many others. Christy has appeared on the news, The Today Show, The Morning Show, TEDx, and the Hallmark Channel, and her work has been featured in the media in various publications. She's been featured on Goalcast, Purist Magazine, People Magazine, 17, Woman's Day, Hollywood Life, and Teen Vogue, to name a few. In today's episode, Christy and I discuss the role of energy in actually being able to live pain-free. We talk about how we can move to master our energy and make those shifts. And we discuss the 4 bodies and, most importantly, how to know when we're not in alignment and how we need to get back into it.
Welcome back to Pain Free for Life, where we share how to successfully overcome all kinds of chronic and extreme conditions to live happy, productive, pain-free lives forever. And now, here's your host, co-founder, and board-certified holistic healthcare practitioner, Dr. Rob Vanbergen.
Hello, Christy. Thank you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me, Dr. Rob. Happy to be with you.
Yeah, no, I'm super excited you're here because this is a very interesting topic. A lot of our clients we work with, they suffer from chronic pain. I mean, we're pain-free for life after all. It's what we work on. So I think my first question will be, in your experience, how does energy play a part in living pain-free?
Well, everything is energy. And they know that now from science, from quantum physics, that everything, whether it's an emotion, whether it's a thought, whether it's, a person, everything is energy. And that all energy has a vibration, and that vibration either is high or it's low. And so when someone, for example, is having a trauma and they don't know how to process their emotions, they typically will close down, right? Like a turtle scared, if you will. They close in. And that also happens when we do that energetically to feel safe. We also do that emotionally and energetically. Energy gets stuck in the body. So I like to think of it as, your emotional body only has so much space before it needs to go out into other parts of the body. And it kind of then finds other places to store it. So it's kind of like spilling over. And if you look at it like a bathtub, if water is still going into the bathtub and the stopper stops, the water is going to get as high and then continue to go over the bathtub. So it's like, and then the damage happens right on the floor and anything else that it soaks. So that's kind of what's happening in the human body, is that when we're not tending to, say, even our emotions, which is a big way we hold energy, if we're in fear a lot, if we're in worry a lot, if we have a lot of anger. There's been so much research now that shows, top universities and medical hospitals, that energy in emotions, stuck emotions, causes pain in the body. So when you go to the root of what kind of unplug the tub, right? You let the energy out, it also then improves the body. I've been working with clients for years and working with energy. And now more recently have been working in certain areas of the body, because if you look at the different body parts, they represent some kind of communication to us. Meaning like, you could have someone that is having lower back pain, which represents support. And certain parts of the body, certain parts of the back, energetically and spiritually, if you want to look at it that way, represents like financial support. So when someone's not feeling supported financially, whether it's from the universe providing or their partner or something like that, or they're struggling at a job, or they're not feeling heard at work, or these kind of things that have to do with support, that usually represents or manifests inside of the spine or the back. And when you work with that fear, when you work with that energy, then it goes away. I'd love to share an example.
Please.
If I could. Yeah. So there's a Pilates studio that I go to. My dear friend who during lockdown let me do Pilates at her house, and I encouraged her to start her own Pilates studio. So she did. And she opened during pandemic and has done really, really well and been very successful. And so she has a lot of Pilates instructors that are now working for her. And one of them in particular was teaching me one morning, and I noticed that she was limping. And I said, why are you limping? And she says, I don't know, something's going on with the back of my ankle. And I've had this, and, it's getting worse. It's going now up my leg. I'm having a hard time sleeping, the whole thing. Doctors can't figure it out. I've went through all the tests. They don't know what's going on. I mean, this is really bothering her. She's got to wake up in the middle of the night with ice, and, nothing's helping her. So I said to her, when did it start hurting? And she said around 6 months ago, but it's gotten severe and worse over time. It keeps getting worse. And I said, well, what was happening 6 months ago? And she said, I moved from Miami to Arizona. And I said, well, what's in Miami? And she goes, oh, everybody I know, including my parents and friends and family. And right. And so, well, why did you move to Arizona? Because we wanted to come into better weather. My husband got a promotion, blah, blah, blah. So she was happy about the move to Arizona. There were a lot of things but she was afraid that she was leaving behind her society, right? Her family, it's like her social, her friends, and that she wasn't going to have it in Arizona. And so just by her speaking out that fear, I started working on her ankle. But I said, look at it as you're holding yourself. What does the ankle do? It's part of the foot, right? It's part of that mechanism of being able to walk forward. And so we looked at that area and let her process the emotions of the fear that she had 6 months ago. And I said, look around now. And she's like, yeah, I've got lots of friends. My mom and dad are actually moving here, because they love it so much. And, so she's like, it's great. The fear is not there, but why the ankle? So she finally let go of the fear that she was holding. And the next day she saw me, she's like, what did you do to me? Oh my God, I don't have any pain at all. And, she's like, for days after that, she's like, I'm telling everybody about, that's crazy, So she just let go of the energy in the body, which then spilled over to her ankles. And then, and then now the mind then worries on what's wrong with me, what's happening. And then it starts making up more stories and, and on we go. So
it's that cyclical issue. We see that all the time. Like someone is in pain, and then the pain itself creates stress and anxiety and fear. And that creates more pain, and it just keeps going, right?
And on and on. And it's like it's either an upward spiral into well-being or a downward spiral into, into that pain. So.
Yeah. And see, I love that, because that's the thing, right? The power of the mind, the power of the body to actually take something that's not good and turn it into a positive, and to kind of lift yourself up. You can, just as you can send yourself into these downward spirals, you can also send yourself up. That's much harder, obviously. I think human nature leads us to kind of lean towards what's wrong. So we have all these different, we work a lot with microcurrent. We work with different frequencies and things like that. So we talk about vibrations. We talk about energy a lot. We know that the body manifests a lot of energy and can output a lot. We also see heavy issues in a similar way here with negative emotions. And this is something that has always been hard for clients to deal with. Do you ever find that people are really resistant to wanting to delve into the negative emotions, negative energy, and pull out of that?
Well, yeah, I only work with people that are ready to do that, obviously, because if someone is not willing to, work with their emotions and not willing to do that, then I mean, it's like, you could lead a horse to water, right? But but I find the people that are attracted to the work that I do, they're like done. I mean, here's the thing: under the surface, these emotions are going on anyway. If someone's in fear, whether they're not going to face it, and now it's coming out in their body, the way their body is feeling, it's like they're getting extreme. And it's some point when people get extreme and they're tired, right? They're frustrated with being in pain. That's when a breakthrough can happen. That's when someone could be like, oh my God, I will do anything. And then they, attract the right person to tell them about something. I mean, a lot of times breakthroughs happen in those times. So the people that come to me at one point or another, they're ready for their life to be better, and they're tired of living in pain, or they're tired of being in debt, and they've read the books, and they've gone to the therapy, and they've done this stuff where it's like, okay, what is it? And it's like, it's emotion, it's energy. And we just give very practical tips and tools and techniques and things that someone can do in any given scenario. Like any given scenario. It could be with your parents, it could be with your kids, whatever is happening in life, to be able to process your energy, to be able to feel your way into something, to be able to say yes when you mean yes and no when you mean no, to not be a victim or to feel like a victim, but to recognize what's the opportunity, to move into, what's the clarity from the contrast that someone's living. And so these are practical ways to do that. But no, if someone is in a state where I remember years ago, my aunt, I'll tell you the story. My aunt Pat, she and I were very close, and she had developed lung cancer. And they had to take part of her lung out, and it was a long thing. And so I got to a point with her and I said, Aunt Pat, I know some incredible healers, and, I've checked in and they're all willing to work with you. And she goes, I'll do anything. And I said, well, she used to drink vodka. She was a, good sized drinker, would not say she's an alcoholic. She at least wouldn't, functioning, whatever. She did have to take a nap in the middle of the day, pretty much most days, but she always had her vodka on the rocks with a orange slice, because she said that's how she got her vitamin C, right, in her drink. And she was, at the end, she was a character. At the end, she wasn't drinking or eating much at all. She was pretty much just drinking. So I said to her, I go, Aunt Pat, the first thing is, though, you're going to have to give up your vodka. And she goes, no way. No way. And I go, at this point right now, if I could tell you that you just need to give up your vodka in order to heal, right? You're not willing to do that? And she goes, no, if I can't live without my vodka, then, so it's like, there's that willingness, right? Someone has to be willing to process and go into the energy. The cool thing is, though, is that, we make it so daunting. Like, oh God, if I got to relive that trauma, or if I got to, feel that, I might die. And it's like, it's just energy processing through the body. Yes. So whatever we make so scary and bad in our minds, I used to too. I was afraid. I was afraid to feel my anger, because, there were times in my life, like I had a lot of anger and I suppressed it really well, but it did come out sideways, as all emotions do. And as I, remember times when I lost my temper and I felt like the Hulk, rah, I pushed people out of my life. I had like rage, right? So I had to, of course, keep that down, right? Because you can't go around raging. You can't be freaking out at something. So I suppressed it, which would only end up making it worse in other rageful situations. It's when I actually felt my rage and felt what I was angry about, and went to the core of that and let that go. I'm no longer an angry person. It actually takes a lot to anger me now. And, and if I do, it's like, hey, no, I don't ever go to that rage anymore. And God, I would hate to, But I was bottling it up and bottling it up it's still under the surface. I didn't have any pain, that it came out physically, not yet. I probably would have, as I didn't heal that, I probably would have eventually had that, because it, like the bathtub, it spills over,
Yeah. Yeah,
So.
it's really interesting. I think one thing that a lot of people can probably relate to as far as describing what this kind of release is like is those situations where you're trying to be strong and you're like, I'm going to keep it all inside, right? That idea of balling it up. But it's like that catharsis of a good emotional release, like a cry, right? And how it feels so like you can feel all that energy pouring out of you, but then afterwards, be darned if you don't feel a lot better for doing it.
Absolutely.
But there's a huge fear around emotional release. And I think that's part of the human condition, right? We're being trained or trained ourselves to not show emotions, to not let it out. So it sounds like the trick is figuring out how to master this energy. So how do we go about doing that?
It's first of all, being willing, that we were just talking about that, right? Are you willing to do whatever it takes to live your best life? Are you willing to, do whatever it takes to align you with your already natural well-being? Like, are you willing to do that? And if you're not, I mean, that's the first thing. Are you willing to get better? Are you willing to have things be different? Because that your choicefulness is your start of energy mastery. Because when you think about, I have a choice. I could get over this and live my best life. Yeah, I've seen people do it over and over and over and over again. I've had people call and dial in to a phone number to register for a workshop, then to have that workshop literally turn them over, where they were paralyzed, not paralyzed, but basically they couldn't get out of bed and they didn't have function of their legs. So yeah, in a sense they were, and to like out there thriving and living life, walking fine. I mean, these are real life stories. That one woman, I was just talking to my husband about her. She had she was a teacher. She was a professor. So, Dr. Janet, and she retired after having a very, 40-year career, and still had energy, still had life in her, still wanted to do something. And so she got certified to be a coach, because I train and certify law of attraction coaches. Went through that program, lost 35 pounds, kept it off, just did all these awesome things. Her husband transitioned. She was able to successfully mourn the transition, instead of keeping all that in and all that. And she started to go to dance lessons. And now she's doing ballroom dancing, getting awards, and she's in her 70s. She's in a very, very different place because she made that choice. So energy mastery starts with your choice to even say, I am a victim. I can't change this. There's no way out. That feeling of stuck. To make that even a choice, and to look at, am I willing to imagine my life differently? That's just even a choice right there. We are all given free will and choice, and it all starts there. So the willingness to do that, then it's looking at, what do you want in your life? What exactly, what is that better? What is that, living my best life? What does that look like in all aspects of your life? Like, what would that be for you at any age or any stage? It doesn't matter, is knowing what you want. And then the second is becoming a vibrational match to it. So for example, in a sense of well-being, right? What would someone that's in full well-being, full of life, living their best life, what would they be feeling? What would they be thinking? How would they be acting? Right? You start to visualize someone like that, start to feel your way into what that energy would feel like if you were living what you said you wanted, or you're giving yourself permission and have given choice to. If you were able to do the things that you want to do, that you only thought you time has passed you by, or you just can't have it for whatever reason, if you actually was living that life, what would you be feeling? Because that's the vibration, and that vibration exists right now. We don't have to go do the thing to get it. The vibration of joy joy might look different from one person to the other. One person might be skipping and laughing and, just being jolly, where another person might be in quiet joy, just walking very quietly within with a big smile in the inner realm and a kind of a little smirk on their face, So joy manifests differently for everybody, but everybody understand there's a moment of joy that someone can remember and think about and start to feel what joy feels like by, it's kind of like listening to music and a song takes you back to an emotion, right? It's like we all can connect with a moment of joy or of feeling successful or feeling content or feeling free or feeling whatever, feeling well, and start to cultivate that even more as you visualize this. And that's where we have to start with the energy so that we're feeling good inside. Our emotions are actually feeling really good. And as what's going to happen, because it naturally does, as you're starting to feel good, as you're starting to allow yourself to feel that better emotion, the emotion that's tied to the opposite of it is going to be like, hello. So the fear, say, for example, will come up, or the doubt or the worry or the anger. Why would I visualize and all? I can't have what I want. That anger of that, I can't have what I want. That's the energy that needs to be processed. So one of the techniques is you would go down into the belly, which is the emotional body. And so like the whole belly is when we first get an emotion, it hits us, boom, and then it's supposed to whoosh all throughout our body if we don't do that initial thing we talked about of closing down. If I let myself stay open and I feel that emotion, it goes up through me, out through me. I'm informed by it. Now I can think about what I want to do, and then I can take some action from that place. That's what it's there to do. But if we're closed down and we're like one big pain point internally, we've got emotional pain, it's going to come out, physical pains, but something will hit us and then the whole part of us gets jolted instead of allowing it to flow through us. So you go into the belly and you just feel whatever energy is in there. Some ways to kind of make it less subtle is you can do an ab crunch, because then there's a pulsation in there that happens. You can, put your hand on your heart or your belly. You can just like listen for the rhythm. All energy has like a rhythm or a beat or a frequency. And by feeling that in your own energy, in your belly, you're actually slowing yourself down. You're acknowledging that energy. And just even the intention of that starts to move the energy, starts to move those emotions that are there, so that it's starting to move. And then as you focus on it, it takes about 90 seconds. Jill Bolton Taylor had talked about that in one of her books, how it takes 90 seconds to process an emotion. Then what you can do is bring in the energy of compassion for having that emotion. So the energy of compassion feels like soothing, like if someone was to wrap a blanket around you, kind of like that's what it feels like. It feels very calming. You could even, touch yourself and kind of just, give yourself compassion, like a nice physical hug, or put your hand on your heart or something that feels good from a physical touch. And then you tell yourself, you're okay. It's going to be okay. Got all I need right now. In this now moment, everything is okay. So compassionate words just to soothe yourself. So it's a process, but it works and it's healing and it's worth it.
All of what you said as well, that step one is that willingness, because it's like you said with your Aunt Pat. I have a client who I will remain nameless, who did a similar thing. And we were sure we could beat the diabetic neuropathy, but he would not give up smoking. And this damage that smoke does to the nerves made it kind of nigh impossible. Everything we did, we were pushing against it. And it was, well, no, if I have to give up smoking, I don't want to do it. And so it really shows us that we're in control, right? We have control of our own energy, and learning to master it. Like, it's interesting to frame it as mastering it, because it seems like it's something anyone can do with these basic steps, right? And people often think of mastering something as, it's for the few, not the masses. But this feels like it's really very approachable. Now, I know when you talk about a lot of the stuff you talk about, you discuss 4 bodies. So not just the physical body. And, most people think we have a physical body. Maybe we have an emotional body as well. What are the rest of the bodies?
Yeah, so there are four. There is obviously the physical body, right? There is the emotional body, like we talked about. There's the mental body, because we've got all this, think about with what most of our consciousness is, right? Most of our consciousness is what we say, what we think, what we perceive or believe, right? And then the rest of it is our emotions and then what we do. So 3 out of 5 aspects of our consciousness is all in the mental body. So that's, the mental. So you got physical, emotional, mental, and then you have energy body, your energy body. We have energy that comes off as frequencies off of our bodies and through our auras and through our spirit body and through the non-physical that we're connected to. That's our energy body. And when you get your physical and your, let's put it this way, when you get your emotional and then your mental and your energy body, it's like it tilts into getting everything else back into alignment in your physical body, because the energy body is pure positive energy. And we're the one that has an effect on that energy around us. So if everything is energy and we can pull forth our spirit body, which is pure positive energy, then we have access already to that source of well-being or abundance or success or love or whatever we're seeking.
So would you say that the energy body is in a way contagious? Like you often, have you ever, I mean, I'm sure you have, like sometimes I run into people and I find that their energy just drains mine completely, or there's so much negativity. But also we see that the opposite way. Someone that's just full of joy and positivity makes you feel good to be around. Is that something that we can actually latch onto from other people then?
Oh, absolutely. We're picking up on everybody's energy body, and we have energy transference that happens between people. I have a perfect example of that, about that. And it's not to diss on any actors or whatever. It's just the whatever side of this you're on. It's just to show the energy transference.
Right.
So if you remember a couple of years ago at the Oscars, there was that thing where Chris Rock was on, the stage, and obviously Jada Pinkett Smith and Will Smith were in the audience, right? So Chris makes a joke. The video shows that, Will was laughing at the joke, right? Yeah. So Jada clearly was not happy with the joke. So she was in her own pain body. She transfers her, whether she could have done it just as a quick look to Will. There's a lot of history there. There's a lot of pain body there, right? Transfers that energy to Will. He wakes up that, Jada not happy. He takes all of that anger and all the pain that has been going on with them, stands up, walks across and hits another grown man, right? And then does what he does, right? And then Chris is up there brilliantly, I might add, going, okay, it's like, that energy got transferred to the whole room. It got transferred to everybody that was watching it. And he just kind of processed it, and then gathered himself. I'm on live TV and then continued. But that whole scenario and that act of anger, that vibe of anger, everybody, whatever industry they were on or in, it was the medical industry, it was the mental health industry, what it was like, the illness industry, whatever. It was like everybody had an opinion on what was happening about that moment, right? And so that was the wave of energy. That was like energy transference. So that's just us sitting in our homes. I'm sitting in my home minding my own business. Mom and dad are there. My husband's there, watching the Oscars, as we always do, because I love the fashion and, we love movies and all that kind of stuff, and going, wait, what, so everybody watching got to pick up on that energy transference. So yes, but here's the deal. Here's the thing. Because it's not to go, oh God, now we have to all fear this. No, when you know how to become an energy master, then you don't have to worry about it. Because you're right. You can walk into a beautiful party and people are happy and you're like, ooh, I feel happy, right? It's like you just get into that vibe. That's awesome. It's great that we have that. Turn on some music and it's like, ooh, it's a party. I feel better right now, right? There's that. But on the other side of that, the contrast of that is this person really is vibrating in fear. I love this person. They're really, really anxious. I don't know how to be around them. Oh, I can't be around them. I'll cut off the relationship. Or I just got to stand it and be around them. Or I got to, I got to not speak. And, they stuff it down and stuff it down and stuff it down. Right. Instead, as you can process that energy, like I'll use my mom as an example. She's a very anxious person. And she'll go to a restaurant and order, and they'll go, "Did you get my order?" And then she'll like scream it, "Did you get my order?" "Mom, I got your order." Right? It's like, he's told you, he's got your order. Dad's told you, I've told you, we've got you. You're good. Right? And to not take on that anxiety. I used to take on that anxiety, right? It's that energy transference that we just talked about. But now I'm able to sit in my own energy field. I'm able to, in any moment, even if she's over here being anxious, I can call in the energy that I want to feel, right? So she's over here, and I can bring this in and let the energy expand, and it actually changes the dynamics. I'll have a perfect example of this. During lockdown, I was taking food to my mom and dad from their favorite restaurant. And, I parked the car in the garage and I knock on the door, and my mom opens the door and she's screaming and yelling at my dad, and he's screaming and yelling at her. So they're having a conversation because they don't argue. I say they're bickering. No, they're just having a conversation. You're screaming at the top of your lungs. We're having a conversation. But anyway, so I see her, and I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm holding this food. I'm thinking to myself, I got to get out of here. Like, this is not going to be a long visit. Right. So I go to put down the food, and I just decide, as they're still arguing it with each other, I decide to just gently, very calmly go sit down in the kitchen and just kind of gather myself. And I was watching them have this conversation, and I started feeling compassion. Right. Normally I would go into that place of like trying to referee. Mom, don't talk to dad like that. And, now I'm in their drama. I retracted from all of that and just let myself have compassion for watching two people that supposedly, who have been married 67 years, supposedly love each other, talk to each other like this. And so it's like, it's the compassions for me first to witness that. Right. And then I started giving compassion. I started connecting with that younger little Christy, where I was having compassion for her, that she grew up like that. Right. And then because of that, and I felt calm about that, all of a sudden I started feeling gratitude, because there was a part of me, I remember, talk about free will and choice. When I remember seeing my parents, I'm like, I don't want a relationship like that. I don't. That's not what I want. Right? What do I want? I want a relationship like that. Ooh, they're an example of a good relationship. I like the way they are like that, So to be in the clarification of what I do want, and I am living that. I have a wonderful husband. We're very respectful. Are we perfect? No. Are either one of us perfect? No. We have stuff we still work on. However, we are loving and respectful, and he makes me laugh every single day, and I make him laugh every single day. And we have great kids. We're really doing well. And so in that moment, I was just in I went beyond compassion into pure gratitude and appreciation for the man that I live with, and the man that I have been with for 17 years and created two great kids. And then I was thinking of my kids, and I was like, wow, they live in a house where they know their parents. There's no yelling and screaming. They know their parents love them. There's no name calling. It's like, wow, look at the difference that I created for my kids, right? And so I'm in this moment while they're still over there, I'm just having this moment of pure gratitude and appreciation. And all of a sudden, the two of them stopped their arguing. They came over to the table with me, and we started talking about uplifting conversations or funny stories about an uncle, or, the boys when they were younger. I stayed there for a good 2.5 hours. And had probably one of the most memorable talks that I've had with my parents in their later years, because they're up there. And so I will cherish that conversation. They didn't change the energy. I came in and it changed the energy with that compassion, with that, I wasn't fighting or pushing against what they were doing or trying to change them. I didn't, release, like escape. I wasn't like, here's the food and I got to go. I sat there in compassion and let myself feel any of those parts that had those pain points or wounds. And then the energy changed. And then that created a beautiful connection.
Well, I think that's really nice. It's really nice to hear because as well, the other thing is, as you said, you could have just thrown the food and left. But chances are as well, that would have actually made things worse because then one of them may have been like, oh, Christy doesn't want to stay because of you and what you're saying. But instead you took it and converted it that way. So not only were you impervious to their energy, but you were able to project outwards. I've been in situations like that before, even just with friends when they start arguing and the mood in the room changes and you can feel that kind of maybe we should go kind of feeling. And that's the thing. A lot of people are just like, I want to remove myself from this energy right here. And I think, cycling back to people dealing with pain, dealing with chronic disease, they're having probably what will be the hardest time of their life getting through what they're getting through. And so it's very hard for them to output positive energy without, as you say, some sort of training. And you do see this a lot, unfortunately, with family members of people that are chronic pain patients, where the family dynamic starts to break apart and it all becomes about the disease and no longer about the relationship. And I love the idea that you can take that and take a situation where you're dealing with all these things and not only potentially resolve the issue at hand, but also just in the interim, make things better, make that energy more positive, because there's very little worse than feeling that negative energy. For me, I cannot stand feeling it. And I tend to remove myself or try my best, make a joke about something with someone and see if I can try and pivot it and change it. Right. But it's hard. It's really hard to be in those situations. So it's awesome to hear that example because it really does demonstrate that is a possibility.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to say something to what you just said. I mean, I do get that. It's like when someone is having a backache or there's a tremendous pain or, mentally someone is struggling with something or even emotionally, I get that. I have so much compassion for that. I've had all of those experiences, not chronically, but I am human. And I've had all those dark moments of the mind and, dark moments emotionally. I've had a lot of things, lived through a lot of things like a suicide of my sister. And, I've had big extreme things like my son having to have open heart surgery at 2 months of age. I mean, it hasn't been like a rainbows and lollipops and unicorn life. Right. But in each of those situations, I've been able to pivot into exactly what we talked about. What do I want? What am I wanting? Why? And how do I want to feel? What do I picture? How would that feel like? And getting myself into a place of not going into, oh God, now I have a bad back. Now I'm going to have issues. Now this, creating a choice in believing something that's not, empowering for myself or others. Right. So, but I get when someone is in that place and, it is very healing, because I had a woman that her hip, leg, and knee was killing her. And she wasn't even able to, she has dogs and she would train dogs and her dogs they're like collies. They do like, obstacles and stuff. And so that's what she did with these dogs. And she could barely walk, let alone run. And she started doing the energy work and all of the pain out of her hips, down her leg, into her knee completely went away. She still has a twinge of knee pain, nothing like it was before. It's like on a 1 versus where it was at a 10. Still annoys her sometimes. I mean, she has options. She could go get it, replaced or, get a surgery on it, but she's good. And she's now running with her dogs and doing the things that she thought were over for her before, so it is remarkable how, pain can, be held in not just the physical body, but we have pain in our emotional body, pain in our mental body. We have a pain body if we've got points of trauma that haven't been let go of. It's like when we release that energy, we release that block or that pain, and then we can bring in more of the positive energy, which feels good and is life affirming and it's youthing and it's, it's like the fountain of youth.
Yeah, well, that's fantastic. Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Christy. This was awesome.
Thank you. Thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, of course. To our audience, please make sure you connect with Christy. I'm going to include all of her information in the show notes at painfreeforlife.com/podcast. Until next time, I'm Dr. Rob Vanbergen, and you're listening to Pain Free for Life.
Thanks for listening to Pain Free for Life. Be sure to follow us, share the show with family and friends, and leave us a review on iTunes. Every time you share the show, you are helping someone take their life back from pain. Visit painfreeforlife.com for more resources, including our free guides to microcurrent, the Hache protocol and inflammation, as well as our blog and online community full of people just like you, successfully overcoming all kinds of chronic and extreme conditions to live happy, productive, pain-free lives forever. And stay tuned for the next episode of Pain Free for Life.